Hi, I'm Allie. Join me as I show you how to make this fun crystal loop design, whether or not you do it as a nice cascading earring, as a bracelet, or keep going and even do different colors as a necklace. It uses two different sizes of crystals, and make sure you watch because we're going to go through how to start it in the interior of the crystal loop and then again how to do it in the exterior. If you need any supplies, want to check out our crystal colors, look below the video in the description. It'll have a little show more button at the end, and that gets you links then once you hit that show more back to our site. Gather up your supplies and let's get started. So whether or not you start out this crystal loops as just a pair of earrings, or you want to do a bracelet or even a necklace because it does have a nice turn to it, it's all going to start out the same way. We're going to start out from the interior on the first one so you can learn from the interior out. And then after that, we're going to go from the exterior to the interior and build on one another. So to start, I'm leaving enough thread. I'm using size 8, the thickest dragon thread in the crystal color. And I have here some 4mm bicones, some 2mm bicones, some 11/0s, and some 15/0 seed beads here. We're going to begin on the interior for the first one, which is going to be a combination of 6 of my 2mm bicones that are all followed by an 11/0 seed bead. So there's 4, 5, and 6. So 6 of my crystals all followed by a 15/0. I'm going to drop that down towards the end of the design, leaving enough room to attach my clasp after this. So I'm leaving enough thread on there that I can attach a clasp. And I'm going to tie this into a double knot. If you're a stop bead person, you can totally do that too. From here, knowing that my seed bead was my last bead that I put on, I'm going to sew up through one of the crystals. And out one of the crystals, we are going to start putting on some of our seed beads. So we're going to add 1 and 2 of our 11s, or our 15s followed by 11, 1 and 2 more 11s, and we're going to sew back through that 2mm bead that our thread is coming out of. That creates a little loop around the crystal. From here, sew through the next 11 or 15/0 seed bead and the next crystal from the starter little loop. 1 and 2 of our 15s followed by 1 11, 2 15s, and you can see that this is going to progress the whole way around. Back through the crystal, through the next 15, and through the next crystal and out. I'm going to do this a total of 6 times because I have 6 of these little petals. If you want to make it bigger, you're more than welcome to do so. It's not going to change the interior steps here. It'll just change a little bit some of the seed beads that you may add to the further rows, just because you're going to need a little bit more distance. So again, 2 15s, an 11, 2 15s, back through, on to the last one here, or second to last one, then as we build up. And this also can be done just as a single piece. You can do as many of the little crystal loops as you want. I thought it was pretty as a single as well. If you're increasing size, you can go up from the 2-4 combo to the 4-6 combo. Change your seed beads from 15s and 11s to 11s and 8s. Doing my last little section here and my last loop. We're going to go back through the crystal, and then we're going to go up through the loop that we just created. So I'm going up through the 2 15s, and I'm going to exit through one of my 11/0 seed beads. I'm out through the 11/0 seed beads here, and we are going to add a 15 along with a crystal, and that's going to be our connector. So you can see the connector here is 15 crystal 15 through the 11. So there I'm through the 11, 15 crystal 15, and we're moving up to the 4mm crystals here through the next top blue 11/0, 15 crystal 15 through the next top blue 11/0. This creates that wheel shape or that loop shape. And what we're going to do after we have all the crystals on here is we're going to do just one more round of seed beads. You don't have to, but I like the way that it looks. Gives a little bit of closure. And also it is our connector point for our future loops. So we're going in here. We're doing this 6 times, going in and adding our crystals. If you find that your crystals are a little bit bigger or smaller, you can always add in a 15 on each side or take it away. After you're done here, I'm coming out through that first crystal, going through the 11, the 15, and then exiting through that first crystal. Once we're through that first crystal, we're going to add 2 15s, an 11, and 2 15s to our needle. Sew through the next crystal that's there, and that's just going to add that second layer of our seed beads. The whole way around this circle, adding in our crystal seed beads combo, or our seed bead combo here, 2 15s, 1 11, 2 15s, all the way around, just picking up through, or sewing through rather, our 4mm bicone on the outer edge. And you can see that adds that nice layer of seed beads where the darker color, that blue 11, sits right on top of one another. I'm going to pour out a couple more 15s, do those last 2, and then what we're going to do is actually exit through one of our second row of our blue beads. That second row of our blue bead is going to be our connector point. I'll talk through then how, if you want this to be just a single earring, you are going to stop. So if you want this to be a single earring or just a nice simple project, what you're going to do is come out through your crystal, up through the 15s, up through to the 11, and then you're just going to add your wire guard right there. You just have your single little crystal loop. So we went on this first loop from the interior to the exterior, and I did it the whole time along with you. What we're going to do now is go from the exterior to the interior as we build our next crystal. So as we build our next crystal loop, I want you to add 1 and 2 15s, and then we're going to add our outer edge, which is going to be our 4mm bead, 2 15s, 1 11, 2 15s, another 4mm bead. We're going to do this until we have 6 crystals on our needle and thread. Once you have all 6 crystals on there, 1 2 3 4 5 6, you are going to add 2 more 15-ohs, which is going to finish as we go through the 11, the 2 15s, 11, 2 15s that sit before crystal number 1. Sew on over through your first crystal after the 2 15s, and now we're going to do our next interior row. 11 with a 15 on each side into the next 4mm bead. That's going to push those other seed beads towards the outside. Since this is a smaller grouping of beads, it takes up less space and will naturally cave towards the center of the design. Going through then, you're going to go the whole way around, pulling nice and tight into almost that wreath shape as you add in those 3 seed beads between each one of your crystals. Adding those then, that's going to give us a connection point to add our 2mm crystals. When you're at the start, at that crystal basically connection right where it connected to the last loop, you treat it no differently, going in through the first crystal. As I go in then and complete this round, I'm going to come out through the 11-oh seed bead of the round that I just completed. That's what I'm going to be grabbing onto, is all of these 11-oh seed beads that sit towards the interior. Grabbing onto those, we're going to do 1 and 2 15s, followed by a 2mm crystal, followed by 2 15s. So back through in a circle, that 11-oh seed bead that your thread was just coming out of. So those crystals and seed beads kind of go towards the middle. Sew around through the 15 and the crystal, through the next 15, and out after sewing through the next blue 11-oh. Doing so again, 2 15s, 1 crystal, 2 15s, circling back through that 11 OC bead that your thread is currently coming out of, plops in that next interior crystal. Go ahead around the whole circle, that whole loop, and add in those 15s with a crystal in the middle. So that way we get 6 of them towards the interior. Once you're done with all of your little loops of crystals there, I want you to sew back up through the 15s and out through the last crystal that you added as doing these loops. Now what we're going to do is catch on to all of those 2mm crystals, adding a 15 between each one. So you're literally going around the loop, adding in, and now you know how to create from the exterior toward the interior, or from the interior out if you need to start, or if you're just doing one. If you want to start on the outside and do all of them working from the outside to the inside, that is also up to you. I just thought it was nice to see it in both ways, how you can create your loops. Going through here then, as you get to the last one, all you're going to do is bring your thread and needle around, and you may see that it sits up or down a little bit. It'll relax as you wear it, but it will have a tiny bit of a concave shape to it. I'm going to go around my piece, getting towards the exterior, because I want to come out through those seed beads there to make my connection point. Once you're there through the connection point, you are just on autopilot doing the exact same thing over and over again. So I'm going to go through here, coming out, and then I'm going to jump and go out. So I'm coming out through that 11-0. Coming out through that 11-0, time to add my next crystal loop on. As you get to the end of the bracelet, you can see on one side here, I put the push clasp. Coming out the end, we're going to add some seed beads, a crystal, and we're going to go through the clasp. We're going to do the same thing on the other side, picking up 1 and 2 of our 15s, going through a 4mm crystal, and then through my infinite clasp with my pretty cobalt Rivoli there, that Sapphire. I'm going to come back down through that 4mm bicone, pulling that nice and tight towards the project, add 1 and 2 more 15s, go back through the 11, and now we are going to reinforce. So reinforcing means that we are going back through the exact same steps that we just did, not adding any beads, just making sure that we have another thread pass through. So we're going back through here, back down through my beads, side, back down through the 11 out, and once again we're going to do it one more time, so a total of 3 times getting that thread ends in, going up through the clasp. As we go through the clasp, make sure we're going through the loop of the clasp as well, coming back down through the crystal, so that way we make sure we have all 3 strands looping around. If we want to use a wire guard, you can as well too. I thought because the crystal was here, it hides it pretty well with the thread right on. After you come out through the 15s, the name of the game is getting rid of the thread. This is my second end where I have my starter thread, so I'm just going to tie those together. But what you can do is tie your thread if you want to. Again, there's a knot here, so I don't really have to worry about it. So actually, I'll show you how I would tie off if I wasn't tying off to that one. I'm going to go between a bead, pick up the bridge thread, which is a thread that connects the beads. I'm not adding anything, and I'm just making a loop with that thread. I'm going to sew through that loop once, pulling it a little bit smaller. I'm going to sew through that loop twice to make a nice sewer's knot. It's going to basically make a nice looped knot there. I'm going to go through my next bead, and then I'm going to grab my wire or my thread burner, burn off my thread ends, and that finishes up my crystal loops bracelet. Once you're done with your crystal loop bracelet, you are going to want to make more. So whether or not you make a nice pair of earrings here, where they are going down. You link them together as a necklace, or even do a lot of different colors and make it a fun, variegated colorway as well too. I can't wait to see yours in our Facebook group for beading and jewelry making. Make sure to post your designs there. Thanks so much for joining us in creating this crystal looped version of a bracelet or earrings. There's a lot of variety that you can do with it. Again, if you haven't yet, hit that little subscribe button so you don't miss anything from us here at Potomac Beads. If you need supplies, look below the video in the project description. It'll have a little show more button. Click on that, and then it'll get you all of the details for everything used here in the video. As always, thanks so much for watching, and stay tuned for more inspirational designs.